All right, I think it's time to get started again. This session is going to be a fundraising event roundup. It's going to cover some of the innovative and creative things that we've been seeing customers doing over the last year and kind of upcoming events. Try to get everyone kind of thinking outside the box about how you want to engage supporters in new ways or put your event in a slightly different light. Just like the last session, you can enter questions in chat throughout. I will not be answering them this time because I'm going to be talking to you, but Elizabeth is on and she'll be helping with questions throughout this session. I'm Johanna Goode. I have been working with marketing for GiveSignup, RunSignup for many years now, worked with a lot of different events throughout that time. And I'm here with Ballard, who is one of our sales representatives, waving at you there from Virginia. What we're going to talk about today, why fundraising events are important. It might sound stupid, but there's a lot of ways to raise money, and it is important to kind of think about why it is that you're choosing to do that through a fundraising event. Run, walk, rides that have a little bit of a different twist or have done something that we think is really creative and interesting to get back up and running over the last year. Some unique different types of ticket events. Like we've said, not everything on our platform is endurance anymore. And there's some really cool things that we are seeing people put together for that. Virtual events, and specifically virtual events that we think are going to continue to have success into the future. There are certain virtual events that are certainly going to go away now that your in-person events are back, but we do think there are certain types of virtual events that are going to be really successful for a long time, and some keys to how you can put together a successful fundraising event. Why fundraising events? So there's a lot of different ways to raise money as an organization. We see fundraising as a part of events virtually across the board. Cam's going to talk a little bit more about how they are involved in endurance events. But whether you're actually the nonprofit putting on the event or you're working with a nonprofit for your event, charities and nonprofits could be a really important way to get people to engage with your event and to really buy into what it is that you're doing. For the nonprofit side, 56% of donors regularly attend fundraising events. We see that really as a way that nonprofits are helping to build a community around their cause. It's more than just having the day of the event. It brings them into your community. And it also brings, the fun of the event can bring more people to the event, and that by doing that can bring more to your nonprofit. This kind of expands on that. Beyond dollars, there's a lot of ways to raise money. If your bottom line is strictly how many donations dollars that you get in, there might be another opportunity for you. But the value of events goes far beyond just the strict dollars that you bring in. We really look at a couple of different things that it does really well. One is going to be expanding your reach. So, you may have people who did not know about your cause and don't particularly care about your cause off the top of the bat, but they have found your event. They're excited about your event. They're going to show up to do your event. And while they're there, you have the opportunity to teach them about the cause, to get them invested in the mission, and potentially to turn them into donors over the next couple of years. It's kind of cliche at this point to talk about raising awareness for a cause, but it is really truly a part of a lot of these fundraising events. It's an opportunity to introduce people to what it is you do. For those people who already bought in on your mission and are excited about your mission, you can create better relationships with them. It's ways to get people to really engage with your team directly, to meet you guys, to hear what you're doing, and to really enjoy themselves through something that you're doing. We find that experiences resonate really strongly, particularly with millennials and Gen Z. That's been kind of repeated in research throughout the years. So if you can create a great experience for people, it's going to bring them back. Recognizing top supporters. If you have people who are engaged throughout the year, at an event is a great time to really recognize those people, whether they're sponsors or individuals, and share the value that they have for the organization. Why fundraising matters to everyone. I include this because I know not everyone who's on here today is a nonprofit. We have a lot of race management companies, a lot of timers, for-profit races that work with us as well. And I think it's important. You may not need to know the fundraising side to the same extent that a nonprofit would, but it is an important thing to keep in mind no matter what you're doing. The reason for that is that the vast majority of races support a nonprofit in some way. If it's not their nonprofit, they're still supporting a nonprofit. If you're a race management company or a timer and you want to keep your clients, what matters to them is the money that they raise. And so if you can help them do that, they're going to be more likely to continue to use your services. If you're a for-profit run, walk, ride, that's your job, that's how you make money. Working with a nonprofit as a charity partner can be a great way, again, to reach more people, to let them know that they're contributing to something good throughout the event, and really build some community relationships as you're doing your event. Innovation, we've just seen a lot of really cool things this year. And I think it's important to note that, for as terrible as the year was, and as much as everyone was tired of doing virtual things and wanted to get back to their regular events, there's a lot to learn from this year. And it's important to take a look at what you did in 2020 and find the things and the pieces of that that really worked well and incorporate them into your future events. All right, Kim, if you want to take Run, Walk, Rides.
Yeah, happy to. So just a little bit of the history of fundraising and Run, Walk, Rides. 1969 was one of the first charity walks in the United States. A year later in March, you had the Babies, March for Babies. It was the first nationwide fundraiser and raised $75,000. In 1972, of course, you had the Munich Olympics, which really spawned on the running boom of the 70s. That led into 1988, where you had the training, team in training. They had the first charity bib style program. And then you can see in 2012, it's estimated that $1.2 billion came in through fundraising alone. So if we go on to the next one there. Awesome. So a range of fundraising and different run, walks, and rides, and really what's going to be the best fit for you and your organization. So you can have a simple fun run, which would be an untimed or a non-competitive event. It's very inclusive. It allows a lot of different people to be involved in it. They don't feel the pressure of having to be the fastest runner at the event. They don't have to be the best at whatever activity you're doing, but they can still participate, still support your organization. Typically that comes with a lower overhead as they're not expecting as much from the event, but want to support you still through it. The focus tends to be more on the cause, and then many of the supporters are only joining it because they want to be a part of supporting you. So this is often, but not always, your smaller events. Of course, you have timed events. Those are going to be timed maybe with or without a timed option, untimed option as well. Typically, that's going to be like your 5Ks, 10Ks even, maybe some of your smaller half marathons there. Participants are going to be a mix of supporters and then people who actually want to go out there and compete against everyone else in the event. And then your premier events, those are your marathons, your turkey trots. They still may have some fundraising options built into that, and they tend to draw larger crowds. Significant overhead, but that reach is a lot larger because of the amount of participation being involved with it. Sometimes they're organized for a nonprofit, and sometimes charities are going to partner with the race. So just some different options for you guys to consider when you're planning your next event. I think now we're going to jump into some different examples of some various fundraising events. So Scott Coffee Run, a lot of you guys who are familiar with RunSignup are very familiar with this event. The participation was down a little bit. This is a traditional community style event. It benefits a local Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Moorestown. They had 150 people though register in that last week of the event. So people are really still getting excited to come out. And just for context, this was in early June, which was just as New Jersey was starting to come away from some of its restrictions and mandates there. They did have an advanced pickup option, but because so many people are local, a lot of the people just came to the race day and did race day pickups. So to do that, they use things like dynamic bib assignments. That allowed people to check people in without shuffling through bibs. And it means that there was no leftover bibs at the end of it. So that's a great way to utilize the check-in app that we talked about in the last session to really smooth out that race day process for everybody. Some of the other things, they had an open start line. And that's great to handle any COVID precautions that your city, county, state, et cetera, may be putting on your event. But it's also a great way to limit crowding if you don't want to have a large crowd at the start-finish line constantly bombarding your general area right there. Always just talk with your timer. They can help you out with any of those options if that's something you were interested in as well. Of course, they used our photo platform, and that gave people a chance to engage, see their photos, and that really extends out the experience for people not just for the one day, but now months down the road, they can go back, look at the memories that they were sharing with friends and family, and support it all over again through those memories. What's really fun is if you have a very engaged group with you or a base of supporters, you can ask them to submit their own photos. And so they can submit their own photos onto the platform to kind of add to that experience overall. They also take that photo platform another level with their sponsors, giving them a little bit more exposure by putting their main sponsor's logo on all of their photos. And then that allows them to have a little bit more reach. So every time someone comes back to look at those photos, they're also reminded of that sponsor as well. So if you're looking to kind of build in some equity between those sponsors, that's a great way to handle that as well. You see here the Kentucky Derby Marathon. This was a late April event, and they had to have a lot of modifications for the event. It's a great example of really thinking outside of the box. They did a lot of things that you can still pass on even without COVID being kind of a factor in what you're planning. Races don't always have to look like the way that we've always imagined. They can be flexible and provide people with many different options. You see here for the in-person option, they had an on-course availability that allowed people to do that for 4 different days for the mini. The marathon was a 1 day on the course, and they didn't really provide a lot of aid to people, which really helps them to become participants to be more self-sufficient and helps the races be more sustainable. They provided water for them, but that was really about all they provided on course for these people participating. Another great thing they did is they had multiple courses available. So it wasn't just this one course they had to go to. They could go to many different sections and areas in the community and be involved in this event. So maybe it was a geographic situation, maybe it was a crowding situation, but for whatever reason, participants could choose whichever of those venues they wanted to participate at. The virtual option, they gave them a month to complete. And that's really a great point, is that you don't want to make your virtual event so small or so short that people don't feel like they have time to complete it. Virtual options, sometimes people will be participating from across the country with friends and family. And so this gives them an opportunity to run at their schedule, participate in their schedule. So if they have work, vacation, et cetera, they can really fit it in with their family time as well. They also got digital bibs you can see there. They got a virtual race bag that had some fun goodie items from some of the sponsors. And then they had a race joy tracking to really engage people as they were out running. Of course, if you want more information with Race Joy, we can definitely help you guys with that as well. And then they added a playlist, so a community playlist that people could listen to songs. Everyone's listening to the same playlist, and it just enhances that virtual experience for everyone. If we go down to the next one, you'll see that they had a lot of charity interaction with this. They had 23 different charity partners, but they also changed, if you see that highlighted section on the graph or on the donation form, they changed the customized wording from fundraiser to charity runner. And so that really just spoke to their branding, and they're utilizing our customization tools to really just boost the overall branding for their event. You can see they had 5,000 in-person participants and 1,000 virtual participants. So really a great turnout for them for that event. Next, we're going to go into the Gold Nugget Triathlon. So this is probably one of the only hybrid events that has a hybrid option. So when you look at the numbers, there was support across all of the various different types of events. So you had 351 for the in-person event, you had 700 virtual finishers, and then you had 270 hybrid finishers. And so what they did is they allowed people to maybe do the bike and swim and then come run, or vice versa, do the run at home and then come and do the biking. So it gave them a lot of flexibility. You can see there that they were able to raise just over $9,300 for Clare House. And so that's just a really great way to expand what they already had going on. On the next slide, we'll see that they included a participant management section. And that's really key if you wanted to reduce some of the customer service needs for you and your team. It allows people to really engage with the event how they feel is necessary. If they needed to make a change, they could easily go onto their participant management, change some of the options that they were participating in. So as things change for a family, maybe a pop-up vacation came in, maybe unexpected work travel came in, they were able to kind of move that around on their own without having to contact you as the race director. That just gives everyone that flexibility. Also increases participation and early registration because they know they have some flexibility if things change down the road. Just talking about some of our premier events that you've heard about, the Philadelphia Marathon and the Broad Street Run. This is kind of an interesting parallel between them. Both of them are having great registration. You can see the Philadelphia Marathon is slightly outpacing its 2019 registration at this time. And they're at 50% capacity, just got increased to 75%. But if you look at the dates for the two, Broad Street Run, which is also up there, is going to be in May. Well, it was in May and is moving to October. And so that's going to be in October, and the Philadelphia Marathon will be in November. So it's very likely, you see the Broad Street Run, they're at full capacity. It's very likely that the Philadelphia Marathon will move up to that full capacity as well. Broad Street Run's doing something really interesting there, though. If you see on that second to last line, they're doing something to say thank you to the people who participated in the 2020 virtual. They opened up registration exclusively for those 2020 participants to say, thanks for hanging in with us. Thanks for being a part of that. Here's an opportunity now to be the first entrance into the Broad Street Run. After that, they'll release it out to everyone. Broad Street Run there is supporting the American Cancer Society, and Philadelphia Marathon is supporting the AACR. And you can see they're about just under 50,000 to their goal of 250,000. So really a great opportunity for people. I want to focus on a bike ride now. So this is a purely fundraising event. That is their number one focus for their participants. It was typically a bike only event, but they've also added a running option. So that's a great consideration to add different options and variations for people who are participating in the event. And they did in 2020, they did a open course in-person event, if you will, as an option for their participants. And what that was, the course was actually a loop. And they had multiple locations where people could come in and enter the loop, complete the event by coming back to that location, and then finishing up. That really takes down on the crowding and the congregating at one central location. Also helped with parking and a few other things as well. One of the fun things they did is they added in custom questions on how or why they ride or why they run for that matter. And they took those stories in the custom question sections that people were responding to while they were registering, and they shared those stories out on their race page. They shared them out on their Facebook and social media. And that really incorporated everyone into this, this kind of motto of why they ride for this event. It also helped gain more support, gain more participants. It was an easy way for people to share with their friends and family why they ride as well. In this event, merch was not, it's not always just about extra money, although that can be part of it, but it also helps bring attention to the event externally. So outside of the actual race facilities there. I'm working with a Rotary Club here in Virginia that is going to be giving t-shirts to everyone that comes to the event. If you purchase a hamburger, if you purchase a drink at the event, they're going to be giving them a t-shirt, not because everyone needs a t-shirt, but because they want this merch to be all across the community so that people recognize that their event is the event to go to in our area come October 30th. So that's a great way to do it. And people will pay for premium gear. So if you have those extra options available or you want to make them available, people will pay that extra amount. And you can even make them available during and outside of registration. So that's a great way to really get people to support your brand outside of the event itself. In this event, everyone was automatically a fundraiser. So they had options for teams, they had options to just be an individual fundraiser, but everyone was automatically going to be a fundraiser. They provided everyone with this great toolkit that really allowed people, kind of taught them how to share their fundraisers, how to create that team, how to get people involved with their team, how to host a virtual run or ride in their location with friends and family to get them to support everything. So it was really more not just about creating the fundraiser and raising money, but also about increasing the overall commitment of their participants so that they continue to draw on that support in the future as well. I'm going to hand it back over to Johanna.
Great, thanks. So we're going to talk then about ticket events. These are going to go beyond Run, Walk, Ride to any kind of ticket event that you can think of. So first thing, what is a ticket event? Just to kind of give a very quick overview, there will be another session tomorrow during the nonprofit track, specifically on ticket events and how they work and the best ways to use them. But kind of the high level way that we look at the differences is you need registration when you need something that has a lot of robust participant management options. You might want participants to be able to change events on their own or defer on their own, to go back in and update their own options. If you have a lot of extensive things that include interactions, signing of waivers, going back and looking at results, if you're going in to do any sort of thing frequently, you're probably better suited for registration. Registration virtually always requires login. You technically can turn it off, but because of those participant management options, we do not recommend that you do. And it has fundraising pages that can be linked to the event. Tickets are going to be much lighter weight. That's intentional. We want them to be super easy for you guys to create. We also want them to be super easy for your participants to buy tickets. A lot of times there's not going to be a lot of information collected. A lot of events we see, all they really need is the name, the person's name and their email address, and that's fine. You can add additional questions or you can ask for more information, but it's intended for places where you may not need quite as much robust information. The interactions are going to be a lot less. They don't need to come back to look for results. They don't need to come back and check things quite as frequently. So there's going to be a lot fewer interactions there. You can still add integrated donations, either one-time or recurring donation options within the purchasing pathway, and you can still include a store. It has a website. It still has a lot of those good features, but it's just a little bit simpler. The caveat is ticket events have to be linked to a nonprofit payment account. So there has to be a nonprofit involved in the event who is able to be the payment account there. One note, the ones I'm going to review here are ticket events. If you have an event that's not an endurance event, but you actually think you need the more robust registration software, you can use that. Just set it up and you can customize those words so it doesn't say race, it says golf tournament or whatever through the actual registration platform instead of the ticketing platform. But these ones are all built within the ticketing platform. First one is the Chicago Craft Beer Festival. This just took place, I think, earlier in July, if I have my dates correct. We've been seeing a lot more festivals coming up. I think a lot of that is, as Allison was saying, we're seeing a lot of demand for outdoor events. A festival is a great way that you can have a lot of excitement, a lot of people. A lot of times they're either outside or they are in really big indoor spaces where people feel like they can spread out. They have a lot of room to walk and to talk and to see people without feeling like they're crammed in, which I know can still make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. The ticketing options that they used were pretty simple. They had 3 different days for this event. Unfortunately, I took this screenshot too late and the ticketing was closed. But if it had been open, what you'd be able to see there is 2 or 3 time slots on each of those little dates that are listed. And so people could come in, they'd see the date, they'd see the time slot they want, they add the number of tickets, and then they're right into the purchasing part there. Like I said, this one, there's not a lot that you need from someone to come to a festival event. So they did not ask for any extra information. If you were buying 2 tickets, they only needed the purchaser's information because you could then come in with those tickets yourself. The average ticket purchaser bought 2 tickets, which indicates, again, people were coming with friends, which is a good sign that this is actually happening as a social event. The last thing I'll say, they did a really nice job. This is a simple cover page. It's not anything super detailed, but what they did is they kept it branded. They included a couple of photos of how much fun they were going to have, and they had really clear and obvious who, what, where, so people could come in, find exactly where they needed to be and when, and what they were getting for what they were spending. The other cool thing about this, I know Allison and Bob talked a little bit about the ticket check-in app. This was one of the first big events that used the new release of the ticket check-in app. So it's kind of cool to see how that happened, how they were able to use it. A couple of things that they talked about that really improved the flow of their event, keeping separate lines for people who had already bought a ticket and those who needed to buy a ticket when they got there. They used their volunteers really robustly. They actually had a volunteer who was trained, going around the lines before people got up to check in to make sure that they had the QR code that was sent to them on their phone and that their phone screen was bright enough to be read. And so by doing that, having that extra volunteer out there working through the crowd, by the time people got up to be checked in, it took just seconds for people to get their volunteers to scan the QR code, check them in, and get them into the festival and out having fun. They also did a lot of role playing with their volunteers to make sure that they were ready to go and, really ready to get people in quickly. The last thing that they really recommended is, it's great. One of the nice things about ticket events is that you can use, or I'm sorry, the check-in app is that you can use your own phone. So volunteers can come in with a device they're used to and use that. The downside of that is that sometimes people are not super responsible about making sure their phone is charged, or they have an older phone that doesn't download an app, or they're just not quite sure what they're doing. They don't want to use their phone. And so having some extra devices in case they had volunteers who couldn't use their own phones helped to make sure that everyone was able to keep moving throughout the whole process. The Heartland Autism Society golf tournament. Again, I think Bob and Allison mentioned we've seen a lot of golf tournaments lately, similar to festivals. They're a great option for people, where people may not yet be ready to commit to an indoor event. This one has pretty simple sign-up options. You can see that you can just sign up as a 4-person team, or you can add mulligans to that team. One thing that I think is really important here is a lot of ticket events, I think this we'll see another one, will have options where instead of buying a ticket as an individual, you're buying a ticket that counts for several people. When we talk about how having a social aspect to your event is really important, that can be a really good way to make sure that happens, that this is going to be a fun golf experience because this person who's buying this ticket is absolutely coming with 3 people that they're really excited to play golf with, and that's going to make sure that their day is better. If their day is better, they're going to feel better about your organization. The other thing that they have is they did ask for donations within the purchase path, but they also added an option to a second reminder, essentially, for a donation at checkout if you did not make a donation during the purchase path. It looks a little bit different, but this is available on both Run Walk Rides and on ticket events, where it will put a little checkbox at checkout when you're putting in your credit card information and say, oh, did you want to add a donation? It's a great way to just get a little bit of extra money, because sometimes people are just rushing through. They just want to get to checkout. They're not paying attention to the fact they aren't donating. They see the little reminder and they will add a little bit of money. Little bits on the ends, best way to kind of, maximize your revenue. A lot of the golf tournaments we've been seeing have been using tickets for sponsorships as well. It's a great clean way for you to share with your sponsors what they're getting for each of their sponsorships. You could put limits on the amount of tickets sold. So, if you have a title sponsor, you're obviously only going to sell that once. And so you can make sure that that's clearly noted on there and someone can't accidentally buy more. One other thing that they did, I didn't have room on this slide for all of this because they have too many options, but they had some really fun themed sponsorships for, maybe sponsoring golf carts or sponsoring the signage, things that are just a little bit beyond these kind of higher level sponsorships, and that lets people kind of mix and match and create their own sponsorship that really meets the needs of their organization. This is maybe my favorite, the SWA 4R scavenger hunt. It's a really fun option that they put together. It's organized by the Solid Waste Authority, which I think is an organization that you look at and don't think of as like, well, that's fun and definitely an event I want to do. So they did a great job of branding it for the scavenger hunt, keeping the focus on the scavenger hunt, really, really staying true to their theme. One thing that they have here is if you can look at their buttons, I don't know how well you can read them, but rather than saying, I want to buy a ticket or I want to join, there are 2 call to actions for buying tickets or to join the hunt or to enlist your crew. And that's a great way to really, again, keep the theme consistent, get people excited, instead of just saying, okay, I'd like to buy a ticket to do whatever this thing is. They worked with a lot of local partners. They have a ton of organizations that were able to give them prizes to offer to people. That has 2 benefits. One is that they're able to build relationships with a lot of local companies. The second is that they have a lot of prizes to give people. So it isn't an event that is strictly about competitiveness and who finished first or who did best. There's a lot of different ways for people to win something and feel like they got a reward out of this event. The cover page, again, is great. Lots of pirate themed things, lots of information. I didn't want to add this to actually show you guys because I think videos play really weirdly through Zoom. But if you want to go back and look at these later, they have a excellent video that explains how the event works, what people should do to join the event, why they want to join it, all of that while they're in pirate costume and acting as pirates. It's a great way to do that kind of thing and make sure that people understand your event. Further sign up, just like the golf tournament, you signed up as a crew of 4. So again, it's automatically including people who, as a group of people to participate together. It's family friendly. If you have extra kids over that 4, you don't actually have to buy anything extra for them. But if they have extra adults, they do ask you to pay for that. They did this in a way that I think is one of our kind of favorite fun features. Obviously not needed for every event, but when it is, it's really cool. It's called combo tickets. So the way combo tickets work is they have an option for an additional adult ticket, but they don't want to have an option for just an individual adult to join because they want you to join as a crew of 4. So that additional adult option, if you can see, it's the numbers are currently grayed out. You actually can't buy that ticket until you have added a crew of 4 to your cart. So once you add that crew of 4, then you'll have the option to add an additional adult if you want. Pints for pets. This one, I think, like kind of talked about earlier, is a great example of an event that has learned from 2020, has really taken what they did in 2020 and incorporated it into what they're doing in 2021. Rather than just having a one-day event, it's like essentially a week worth of events. They have a couple of virtual things, a virtual happy hour, and I think a virtual bingo game. And then they also have some in-person happy hours culminating in their kind of main event, which is sort of festival-ish with pets on the weekend. And the reason I think that's so key is it's not a super expensive event because there's not a lot of overhead to adding a virtual happy hour. It doesn't necessarily cost them more as an organization. But what it does do is provide an opportunity for someone who maybe had fun in 2020 or knows they can't make it to the festival on the weekend, but still wants to participate in some way. They might be willing to pay the $20 to participate in the events that they can go to. There's a lot of flexibility throughout the week, a lot of opportunities for them to get involved with this event. And that just expands their options and really gets people engaged. I love their donor levels here. So anytime you're setting up donations, you have the option to customize the levels, both the amounts that you ask for and any sort of title or name for them. What they do is they use that title as a way of explaining what that amount of donation means for their organization. If you pay them $10, that can feed a pet for a week. If you're able to donate $250, that can sponsor 3 adoptions or fix a litter of kittens. And that really drives home the impact of the donations that you're making, makes it real and tangible. And so far, this event's not for a couple more months, but so far about half of the ticket purchasers have added a donation. So they do seem to be responding to that need for donations. Last thing on this one, kind of back to Cam's point on the ride, swag can be a great option. Branded swag can be a great way to get people to share about your event after the event. They used what we call strike through pricing. So it's that you can see that it says it was $14, it's crossed out, and now it says $8 on the cup. That's available in a couple different places on the platform in terms of registrations and add-ons and things. But it's a really fun way to make people think that they're getting a discount. They may or may not actually be getting a discount that might just be your price, but it's a great way to make people think they're getting a good deal and really help encourage them to take another look at your items. The last one on ticket events, the Isle Society Summer Barbecue, another one of my favorite cover pages. It's just very simple. I love the countdown clock always, and again, includes a video that really explains their organization. Just like we said before, they have a really good call to action. If you look up on their header, rather than just having a donate button, it says you can't make it, donate today. And I think those kinds of calls to action can really, it sounds stupid and simple, but it can make a difference when people are reading it, whether or not they are prompted to actually do something. It's actually a really good way of saying, oh, right, I do support them. I should actually click through this. The thing that they do, this event is really focused on providing members for their organization. It's a member-driven organization, and so that's a really important piece. So they have on their cover page here a really clear call to action that says, if you are a member, you get either discounted or free registration. It links back to where someone can become a member. It makes that really obvious for them. They go a step further with that and actually allow people to become memberships through the ticket buying purchase by adding an extra donation. Their donation page makes a really clear point of how much you need to donate to be able to reach that membership level. And again, it's someone who maybe on the front page was like, I don't want to go through signing up to be a member to get a discount. But then they get to the donation page and they're like, oh, so if I pay a little bit more right now, then I am a member and I'm going to have other perks that come with that. It's a great way to just get people into that flow. The last thing on here is, the tooltip. So rather than titling their donation levels, like you saw with Pints for Pets, this one, they use the tooltip so they can give a longer explanation, again, explaining exactly what that donation does. And that can really help to drive people into registrations. They also do give the option here. It's closed right now, but if you click on that arrow by one time, they do have the option for you to make a recurring donation if you're really invested in the organization and you want to do a monthly donation instead of just the one time. I think Cam is going to jump back in for virtual events.
Yeah, so virtual events in any time of the year. Quick quote here from Tony Sapp over at Negative Split Productions. Virtual races were around well before the pandemic. They really hit their stride during the pandemic because nothing else was going on. But virtual races and challenges are here to stay. Live events will have their own place. But if you can get creative with virtual, it can really be an annual virtual gathering for people to celebrate and engage with nonprofits. And that is just, if you were going to sum it up on one slide, that's it right there. We're going to go over some challenges, a couple of challenges that are supporting various nonprofits here quickly. But real quick, why keep virtual around for your nonprofit? Virtual participants are not the same as your in-person participants. They tend to be older. They tend to be female. They're looking for a different kind of experience. In addition to going hybrid whenever possible for your events, you want to try and add some of these virtual elements to maybe some of your other events going on, or have a sole virtual event standalone. It really gives a lot of opportunity. And if you do them right, it keeps people around for longer. Challenges really engage people over a longer course of time because the distance may require 2, 3, 4 months of participation. It means that people are coming back to your event day after day, or maybe every other day, and they're going to be able to see your organization, remind themselves of why they're participating. The donation button is right there. If they want to give an extra donation, they can. If they want to invite friends to participate with them, they can do that as well. And they're constantly reminded of why they're supporting you and your organization. So we're going to talk about the Indy 500 challenge. This was really created to kind of offset some of the event limitations for the traditional Indy Mini. They are offering 4 months for people to do either a 500 or 250 mile challenge, either through on foot, bike, swimming, etc. They're doing a very inclusive opportunity to engage with different people and giving them various different options, even skateboarding. They're giving them all sorts of different activities that they can participate. And really where challenges and virtual really shines is that I can be in Virginia and participate. I can invite some of my college roommates from Memphis, from North Dakota, from Washington to participate with me. And we can all participate at the same time, even though we're geographically just too far without making one week-long trip out to some event. So we can all support a nonprofit together. We can participate on a team, challenge each other to do better. And that's really some of the beauty of what a challenge can do. The Indy 500 Fest does support the 500 Festival Foundations programs and Indiana Youth through their organizations here. Oh. Yeah, there we go. All right, so keeping participants engaged. 40% of their participants engaged through a team participation. So that's huge. That means that you can grow your participation by having those team options, because people want to support as a team. They like the camaraderie, especially in challenges where there may be multiple miles, and this is going to be month and 2 month long events or longer, that they're going to be able to connect with those friends and family from all around the world. They did some fun badges, doing those custom badges, and we talked about those in I think all the sessions thus far. Really allows people to just kind of get that sense of accomplishment. It allows you to get creative with how you're engaging with people. And again, because they were doing various activities like skateboarding, you can see the nice skateboarding badge down there. But they also did badges after the 500. So once you got past the quote unquote finish, you were continuing to receive badges for your accomplishments, if you kept participating. So if someone's very quick and finishes your challenge in a month or 2 months or half the time of what it would typically take everyone else, that means that they're not disconnected from the event all of a sudden. They continue to participate, they continue to try to be at the top of the leaderboard if they're competitive, and it gives them extra opportunity to support your organization. They also did some really fun things on social media just to drive that engagement across this event. They did a scavenger hunt, which encouraged people to take photos of different places that they're at. Maybe one day they had to find, you see a waterfall there. Maybe another day they had to find a local store. So it's just some fun ways that they got people to engage while they were participating, just to keep the engagement up there. Next, we're going to talk about the downtown runaround. And this is a great example of just a small community getting together, the local shops, the local businesses, in a way to engage people in this challenge to also raise money for a good cause. So this was their first time ever doing anything like this. And they highlighted the community and the various businesses through their sponsorships as part of the event, as you see down at the bottom of their cover page, but also through their actual virtual route that they encouraged people to go on the run for. They would actually give people discounts on that run because it would go through to visit the various stores and organizations that were a part of it. And if it was a local bakery or an ice cream shop, maybe they were giving them a little discount for participating in the event. So you get to stop in, grab a quick ice cream cone, go on, run a few more, find something else. Maybe that was the local pet shelter and you get to see the pets. So just a great way to get people in the community involved. They didn't close registration until the end of the event. And by doing so, they actually had a lot of people sign up, even though in those last few days, because as the event started, people were participating, they were sharing on the photo platform, they were sharing onto Facebook. The participants that were already a part of it were engaging. And then that created more of a spark for more of the community to get engaged in the process. So that was a really great opportunity for them. They raised an additional $2,100 just via additional donations. That's not even including the actual registrations. I do believe this was a lower priced event up front, which allowed people to actually donate more on the back end as well. So that's always an option to consider. So why is it worth continuing? You know, they had this strong sponsor activation. The in-person component really gave them a lot of opportunity to participate with everyone. They had a pre-race video that highlighted all the sponsors. Each one got to do, like, I think, a little interview for why they were part of this. So it's just a great way to just build up the excitement for an event. They had 22% of the participants engaged in teams. So again, there's just that team theme rolling on again. Didn't mean to make those rhyme, but it's a great opportunity for you guys to get more participants engaged with the overall event. And then again, doing it with friends just makes it that much more fun, like we talked about with the golf tournaments. And then again, very cost effective. They had a free website and free marketing tools built into our platform. The swag costs were covered by some of the sponsors. So it's just a great opportunity to raise money for a great cause along the way. Sponsors who are going to be covering different events, maybe they get a little bit extra display or things like that, but it's a really great way to engage with them on ways that they can be a part of this event overall. And on that, I'll turn it back over to Johanna.
All right, so we're going to finish up with just a couple of our kind of very high level keys to a successful fundraising event. These are things that I think, no matter what type of event you're doing, you want to keep in mind. First is that it needs to be easy. We kind of talked about how that's why, that's the way we built our ticket platform. But even with registration, you want to make sure that you don't overcomplicate things. It's great to have options, but make sure that people can look quickly, understand quickly what their options are, and move forward. Along with that, we often say, make sure you have one pricing strategy. Don't have people staring at your website trying to figure out if it's going to save them money if they register as a team, or if they register as a family, or if they register using a discount for kids. Make sure that you pick one of those choices, you drive it home, you really go after that pricing strategy, but you don't have so many that people can't figure out what the cost of your event is. Along with that, make sure there's a reason for any questions that you ask. If you don't need someone's address, you don't have to ask for their address. It makes it a little bit simpler in their registration process. If you don't actually need to ask any additional questions, then you don't have to. It's great to have information on your participants, but really think through that everything that you're doing is extra time people are putting into your registration. So only ask the things that you really need to know. Include all the details about joining. that how, when, that where, when, how, you want that to be on your website, clear, front and center, both on your cover page. You may actually need more pages on your website for that. You want to have it in your confirmation emails. You want to have it in every communication. You want to make sure that, when people have registered a month before and they want to come back and really quickly get the information about where they show up on Saturday, it's fast and easy to do that. You can send the QR code straight through the confirmation emails for both ticket events and Run Walk Rides. There is a check-in app. With that, like we think we've talked about a couple of times, it really can speed up your event day process. If people have the QR codes, and if you made it clear to them to try to have them available, you can check them in without a QR code, but it's obviously the fastest and easiest way to do it if they have it with them. Fun, that is probably obvious, but as we've driven home, if you make a fun and exciting opportunity experience for people, that's what's really going to leave them with a great impression of your organization. Anytime you can provide opportunities for social connections, like we said, teams, if it's a run, walk, ride, group ticket purchases can be a great option. Anytime you can have social media interactions, we talk a lot about Facebook groups, not because it's necessarily the best way to promote your event and reach new people, but because it really keeps people who are participating in your event engaged with your organization, excited about it, and really thinking about it before and after the event. I call them Instagram opportunities. Any place that you can have, that is a natural place for people to take photos, any way you can encourage people to take photos really does make an impact. It makes an impact because people go back and they share them with their friends and family, and those people want to come to your event in the future. It also makes a difference because people share them on their Facebook, they share them on their social media, and then in years later, they get reminders that they have this memory of this event. That again keeps them coming back to your event and thinking about your event and reminding them constantly of how much fun they had. The last is, people just like having the satisfaction that they're doing something good in their leisure time. That can be fun. So if you remind them why they're there, they will be more appreciative of being there. Finally, obviously, the reason for a fundraising event is to raise more. Again, things we've said repeatedly today, and we'll probably keep saying over the next day and a half, keep the cause front and center. Whether it's your cause and it's the main purpose for the event, or it is a charity partner that you're working with, reminding people of what that cause is and the impact that they're having really does give them an extra incentive to participate and to feel good about what they're doing. Having donations integrated into your purchasing path, if you are able to, I really recommend the additional nudge by adding a checkbox at checkout. Again, it looks a little bit different on the two platforms, but it's available on both of them. And we see really good results from people who have turned that on, just getting a little bit of an extra boost in their donations. You want to clearly share the impact of all your donations. This one, we've not talked about it all today. I know if you're on the nonprofit track tomorrow, I'm sure it will be brought up in multiple presentations. You're able to give donors the option to cover the 4% donation processing fee. So what that means is you can absorb that, can come out of the donation, but a lot of times donors, they want to give you $10. They don't want to give you $10 minus 4%. So if you you can turn on a feature that will then bring up a quick checkbox that says, do you want to cover the donation fee to make your donation go farther? It'll be automatically checked. They can uncheck it if they don't feel like giving that extra money, but it provides a way to really maximize the dollars that you can bring in with a pretty quick and simple feature. And like we said, high quality swag, additional income. It's bringing in a little bit of extra revenue, but it's mostly about the exposure that you can have and the reach that you can have after the event. And I think that is it. We might have time for one or two questions if there are any, Elizabeth.
We actually don't have any outstanding questions.
All right. Well, then you guys get an extra minute on your break. We'll be back at 3:10 with Brian Jenkins for Quick Hits, which is a perennial crowd pleaser, very fast-paced session covering basically every kind of feature or idea that we see people tend to miss. It's really easy to turn on, enable, to make your events a little bit more fun.